this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough.
You should know that Chris Cross is not having anything today. As we stand here totally crossed out, we commit to make you jump, jump. Come back down and make you jump, jump. Oh, Daddy Mac will make you jump, jump. Chris Cross will make you jump, jump. Don't try to compare us to another bad little fad. I'm the Mac and I'm bad. Give you something that you never had. I make you bump, bump, wiggle and shake your rump. Cause I be kicking the flavor that makes you wanna jump. How high, real high, cause I'm just so fly. A young, lovable, huggable type of guy. And everything is to the back with a little slack. Cause inside out is wiggin' and wiggin' and wiggin' and whack. I come stomping with something pumping to keep you jumping.
Welcome in. Happy Monday. I hope that you are well rested, that you had an enjoyable weekend, and you are ready for RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. This, of course, is the show where we hit all the trending topics across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. And you know, when we're coming off of a weekend, it's always extra. And this weekend did not disappoint, as there are so many things that we have to get into. So let me give you a rundown of what we are going to discuss tonight. And get you ready. Wait, before I do that, if at any point during this conversation you want to get in and give your opinion, give us a call, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. You know, there's an app. Download the app so you could take us with you. And, of course, follow us on social media, KBLA 1580. I'm at Stiletto Jill. Hit me up. Say hello. All right, now let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight. So first up, listen, I don't know if you've seen the video, but the video is pretty wild. Cam Newton, former NFL quarterback Cam Newton, was attacked during a 7-on-7 event, which is like, you know, a football kind of scrimmage, for lack of a better term, not with full pads and things of that nature. We'll get into what a 7-on-7 is. However, he was attacked at this event. And considering things like Nipsey Hussle, life being taken at his store, right in his hood, we've seen other people go back to the hood and been hurt or attacked. Is it time for celebrities to rethink their approach in giving back to our communities? We're going to talk about that. The Wendy Williams documentary hit. And I know you've been seeing clips if you didn't watch it yourself. We're going to get into some of the conversation and the things that have come up through the course of that documentary that aired on Lifetime over the weekend. And her ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, released a statement. Well, I guess it's not a statement. He posted to Instagram and then deleted. But he had some allegations towards Wendy's sister. So we're going to get into that and kind of walk through how we feel we can sort out what's happening with Wendy and who's really in position to help her at this point in time. Plus, we're going to get into lawsuit number 3 for Diddy. This time it is a male producer and videographer. And he makes some serious accusations not only against Diddy, but Diddy's son, Diddy's son Justin, as well as the former Motown chairman and a few others. So we're going to talk about that, Diddy's response to that, and, where we think that is headed. So before we get into all of that, we like to start the evening with a couple of conversation starters. These are topics, things, conversations that we can't get all the way into, but I want to make you aware. So first up, we hear a lot about female rap, what it isn't, what it is. And when we talk about a female rapper with substance, the name Rhapsody is always brought up, correct? Well, this week on February 29th, Rhapsody is back dropping a new project. And she said it's a prelude. And she gave the definition of a prelude, which is an action or event serving as an introduction to something more important. And it's a photo of herself, and she says, I feel, I create, I tease. So I'm curious to see what Rhapsody is going to come with. She sees what the current environment looks like. Doesn't mean that it's going to impact her art, but she sees it. She's heard the comparisons. She doesn't like them. So I'm curious as to see what her next project is going to consist of. Andy?
And nobody's going to go ahead and support her, unfortunately.
And that I don't want to, I know you're not wishing that on her either.
I'm not.
I completely understand that. I know where you're coming from with that. But it's just, and it's something I also say about reality TV and certain TV shows. We claim that we want to see a lot of things, especially a lot of positive things. But where our views count, right? Our dollars count. We don't show up there, and it makes it a hard justification to say that we really want that en masse. So we're going to get into a little bit of that, but Rhapsody's coming, so I'm curious to see what she's coming with. On the other side, of course, we have more trending topics and headlines. Listen, I got a story for you about Christian Woods of the Lakers. That's crazy. Is he even still on the Lakers? He is? Okay. He's still on the Lakers. Yeah, he had a lot of drama this weekend as well. Plus, one of the Kanye West, what do I want to call it? I mean, it's his children, but I was going to, be kind of nifty with my description, made his debut on the soccer field over the weekend. So we'll get into that, plus a whole lot more. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So, listen, the FTC is suing one of your favorite grocery stores. And they are doing so to prevent a merger that they say will lead to price gouging and higher prices. So if you weren't aware, Kroger and Albertsons, two of the biggest grocery giants in the United States, are planning a $24.6 billion merger. And it suddenly occurred to someone that maybe this is a bad idea. So they are suing to prevent the merger. They're saying that it would be devastating for working class families and that their grocery bills would skyrocket because they would effectively have a monopoly on the grocery industry across the country. Of course, there's things like Aldi, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, whatever, but these are the two major grocers for most people across the country. So we will obviously keep you updated on that. I know that the unions have joined in and thrown their support behind it. So we will see what develops with that. Okay, so I mentioned that Kim and Kanye's child, Saint, he attended, so first of all, shout out to was it the Galaxy? Yeah, it was the LA Galaxy. Because, there's the LA Football Club and the LA Galaxy. Because we're great in Los Angeles, we have two of everything, including sports teams. So the OGs, the LA Galaxy, played the, what are they called? The Inter Miami team. And that is the team that Lionel Messi joined last season. And Saint West got the dubious honor of walking out onto the field with Lionel Messi for the game. I know that had to be a moment. This is a worldwide, world-class football star, and getting to be there and just seeing all the excitement had to be really special. It was obviously a big game, not as big, of course, as like the Super Bowl. But I mean, if you guys listened to my conversation last week about the problem with the NBA having bad ratings during All-Star and the ratings are slipping and football encroaching into their territory, I also think that they should be on the lookout for soccer stepping in there. There were a bunch of celebrities that were attending the game as well, and we got the picture that we didn't know we needed. Halle Berry and Haley Bailey, I hope I'm saying that right, but you guys get it, were there and flicked it up for the culture. So shout out to them. Also, I forgot to do a birthday shout out. Today is Erykah Badu's 53rd birthday. So happy birthday to that queen. We love Ibadu. And she's still out there doing it, looking fantabulous at it. So happy birthday, Erykah Badu. Okay, next up, we're going to get into this Cam Newton story because this is a little wild. So as I mentioned, there was a 7-on-7 event that took place in Atlanta over the weekend. 7-on-7 is basically a skills position. It is without pads. They line up against each other, and it's kind of like a scrimmage, and different teams participate. They get to show off their skill sets. Sometimes, scouts or so forth are in the building. No tackling, hence no pads. Da 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 da. So it is football light, right? But it is practice for the guys. It gets them, starting to get them in game shape and also training. Well, there was a competition over the week. Well, I shouldn't call it a competition, but a setup, a camp, a situation for this 7-on-7 where various teams participated. Cam Newton has a team that participated in it, as well as a team called Top Shelf Performance. And so if you've seen the footage, there's a lot of conversation, excuse me, that Cam was jumped by some kids from this 7-on-7 team that was in the building. Well, that's not exactly true. What it is that there's a coach, one of the coaches, his name is TJ Brown, topshelf_TJ, if you're curious and want to check out his Instagram. And apparently, at one point in time, he worked for Cam Newton's 7-on-7 team. I guess a good way to explain it is it's kind of like AAU basketball for football. And that's not even really a proper way to explain it. I'm just trying to give you some context here. But so people, in short, the reason why I bring that up is that that there are often coaches involved that may not necessarily be the most professional. They might have played the game at one level, or they have a connection to this and that, and so they get involved. Well, this guy TJ and maybe some other individuals used to work for Cam, but now they work for this Top Shelf Performance. So prior to the altercation that we saw, there was a video circulating online of the TJ gentleman. If you're curious who TJ was, in the video of Cam and the squabbles, he's the one with the dreads and the twist that was getting tossed around like a rag doll. So here's the setup, okay? TJ, before Cam's team lost in this, okay? They did not win. Happens, not a big deal. As I said, it is, largely a scrimmage situation. There's no titles on the line or anything like that. It's just practice and bragging rights, I suppose. However, TJ was talking mess. He recorded a video of himself talking about Atlanta's favorite non-throwing quarterback, boop, boop, boop. He had a lot of things to say about one Cam Newton. Well, we don't know. We didn't see the full video. But what we did see is someone, TJ or one of his people, swing on Cam, and Cam not throw a punch, but handle what looked to be like 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, slanging them around. Hat didn't move. The dreads had the hat on secure. They filled it up inside so it did not move. It was like Botox in that piece. Listen, that was a man's man. And the thing is, these men know Cam, so they know that he is not a small guy. Cam Newton is about, 6'5", 6'6", 250 all day? I know you may think you know what these athletes look like and what that stature looks like in front of you, but you don't. And let's be clear, Cam is probably not in football shape. It's been a while since he's been on the field. But it is clear, much like it is clear with one Shannon Sharp, that these men are still in the gym taking care of their physique. So, having said all of that, these gentlemen decided they wanted to have whatever conversation, and Cam handled that before security finally came. Since then, excuse me, there's been some backpedaling from TJ and the other gentleman that was with him, right? Oh, by the way, Top Shelf, they also lost the 7-on-7 as well. They may have not lost to Cam's team. They may not have lost at the point where he made that initial video, but they did not win. At any rate, somewhere it must have clicked in to TJ that, this isn't a good look. And as a leader of men, a coach, you having this out there makes you look very, very bad. So they went on a radio show and spoke about what they claim happened prior to what we all have seen in the video.
Let's want to know, like, what transpired, like, what can make anyone, like, so angry, because I'm sitting here and I'm speaking to you guys, and there's so much that you guys are doing for the community, and you're pouring into these young men, and so it's just like, what can make something transpire like this?
First and foremost, like, what I want to do, I want to apologize to everybody that was out there, and to the parents of not just our team, but everybody that was affected by it. That should have never happened. Like, we should have been able to sit down and talk. Like, there's no reason we should be yelling at each other while a game going on. Like, ain't none of that necessary. So Cam has an organization. It's not just one team. He has an organization. So it's just been a lot of trash talk, from, hit more so his side, just out of nowhere, just talking crazy to us for no reason. It's like, it's not nothing new. Like, I've been around bro for 5 years. So like, this typical Cam Newton behavior.
But Steph, you was right there.
Yeah, so
you was listening to the whole thing, so you heard him and you walked up.
So Steph walk up there,
okay.
And as I'm walking up with Steph, Cam is in Steph's face. I made y'all responsible for everything y'all do, whatever. Then he grabbed Steph.
Okay.
So me being my little brother, and I'm walking up a flight of steps, and I see a 6'6" guy grabbing my brother.
And that's the footage that everybody
That's what everybody's seeing.
Okay,
like,
so that was the first altercation where everybody saw.
Nothing else
right
ever happened before that.
Nothing else ever happened. Nobody's seeing, like, how he was talking crazy for the past 2 days. Like, nobody's seen that. Like,
so here's the thing, right? One, we saw you on video, sir, talking mess about Cam before even that altercation you said happened. But now you're saying Cam was talking mess the whole weekend and he needed to be handled. I guess for me, the bigger question is, and it's not whataboutism, but I can't remember what show brought this up or who talked about this. Do you think Eli Manning and Peyton Manning are having this type of stuff jump off at their camps? I'm sure there's some type of altercations and, tempers flare, egos get in the way, but why does it seem like we are, at times, our own worst enemies? If you think back to a couple years ago, there was video footage of a young guy talking smack to Cam at one of his camps a few years ago, totally disrespecting him. And, it's kind of crazy because I know Cam's dad played football at Savannah State. I can't remember if he also was pro, but I know he, played in college. And that giving back to the, the Georgia community is something that was very important to them. And so from the very beginning, they have done things to set themselves up to make sure that they could give back. But the question now is the juice worth the squeeze? With so many times, we see our heroes, for lack of a better term, heading back into the community to give some type of support. And I'm not just talking about the ones that are there for the photo op or, to make the things look good. The ones that are consistently trying to do things. And on the other side, we see a lot of disrespectful youth and just a changing environment. So I'm kind of curious, what are the thoughts about, is it worth it for your physical and your mental well-being to still go back and leave that impact? Or is it better to just send a check and not even touch those lives physically because it gets so crazy out there, especially as of late? Andy?
Oh, no, that's a real tough question. Because in one hand, you want to be accessible to a degree, right? Especially when giving back to the community, because, when you're accessible and when people can touch you, just, whatever it is that you're doing in a lot of ways will have a more stronger impact as opposed to that individual who's just coming in for a photo op. The community, we can see through that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough. In this Cam Newton situation, I'm not absolving anybody. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All parties are at fault. I appreciate old boy for, apologizing and whatnot. And, they did say that Cam Newton did open his mouth and say some things. I got to put a little bit of the blame, actually a lot of the blame on Cam Newton, because he was talking himself too. And you being who it is that you are, you know, I think you can make a presence, but, and fair enough, they all know each other, right? So to a degree, you can say that they're brothers and friends. It's unfortunate that, you know, a family discussion went violent and it was in front of people.
Right.
I think we should maybe at least give grace to that. But, you know, Cam Newton, you know, he's a personality himself. You know what I'm saying? And I could just see Cam Newton running his mouth, talking his stuff, and, you know, people retaliated. He should have just been calm, cool, and collected. They could have talked their trash maybe after the game or whatnot. But for anybody else, I don't know.
I feel like he was calm. Like, he didn't punch any of them.
He did.
They were throwing wild haymakers. And what I think about, too, is what if somebody would have had a shank? Maybe I've watched too much TV.
That's real.
People always got heat. Realistically, I don't want people to stop touching the kids and the youth and being, you know, able to make that thing. But sometimes as a safety concern, for example, this is off topic, but on topic. Here in LA, the Del Amo Mall has enacted a new rule that kids 18 and under cannot be in the mall without an adult 21 or over with an ID.
That's been going on forever.
No, they
maybe not at Del Amo.
At Del Amo, they just started.
Okay,
because remember they had that wild thing where the kids like wilded out.
Oh yeah.
But so many different, you know, you can't even. Where can kids go besides the mall and the park, right? For very little money, and now they can't go to the mall without a chaperone. So things are rapidly changing, and just what is okay, where these areas are okay. I just wonder what's next, because it feels kind of scary, you know? I think about the fact that Nip was right. I know that wasn't the thing, but Nip was right down the street. Random. Nip was there because he wanted to stay connected to his people and put something that made sense to them, that inspired them right in their neighborhood. He could have done that stuff on Melrose like anybody else and started out there, but he didn't do that. And, you know, it's just hurtful. I just wish we could get that part of it together so that we don't always think fear for our lives when it comes to events and things. When we come forward, we'll have more trending topics and headlines. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Maryland is joining the Federal Trade Commission and attorney generals across the U.S. in suing to block the proposed merger between major grocery store chains Kroger and Albertson. The lawsuit alleges the merger will lead to higher prices for millions of Americans. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown, who is black, said a majority of Marylanders who responded to a survey last year expressed concerns that the proposed merger would be harmful to consumers. With the North Carolina primary election now just about a week away, a lot of political eyes are watching the hotly contested race for the Republican nomination in Congressional District 1. The area formerly known as the Black Belt for its large number of African American voters is now being fought over by GOP candidates Lori Buckhout and Sandy Smith after the state Supreme Court recently approved new district lines to include 7 mostly white counties. The winner will take on incumbent Democrat Don Davis in the November 5th general election. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Can your roof handle extreme weather? If you have leaks or a roof that is 20 years old or more, go to localroofs.com to schedule a free roof checkup and estimate. Get a new roof for as low as $198 per month on approved credit. Restrictions apply. Go to localroofs.com.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Recently, the Washington Post ran a major story which in sum reveals that racial discrimination in jury selection persists in America. Most often, the practice occurs through a legal tactic called peremptory challenge, which allows an attorney to strike a potential juror without having to state a reason. In the 1986 Batson Doctrine, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the use of peremptory challenges to exclude potential jurors solely based on their race violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. By the way, the late great Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall despised peremptory challenges. New data in the Washington Post story underscores that nearly 40 years after the Batson decision, the problem remains widespread. One study in the Deep South found that black jurors are being challenged and dismissed at double and triple the rates of other prospective jurors. Bottom line, it's racist, it's wrong, and it's pervasive, even as research shows that racially diverse juries spend more time deliberating, make fewer errors, and can result in fairer trials. One of the arguments in the Ninth Circuit appeal, brought by former LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, is about violation of that Batson Doctrine. In its case against MRT, the U.S. Attorney's Office struck black women from the jury pool based on demeanor and employment status, a clear violation of the law. A long list of high-profile black law professors, historians, and justice centers have now filed amicus briefs in support of MRT's position. But the irony of a black elected official who for more than 3 decades represented the best interest of his black constituents, having black women voters struck from his jury pool is repugnant and morally wrong. So much for being judged by a jury of your peers. MRT's legal team argues correctly in its filing that given well-established law and legal principles set forth by the Supreme Court, Ninth Circuit, and state courts and legislatures, the Ninth Circuit should likewise reaffirm and clearly state that applying facially neutral justifications in discriminatory ways to target black women and other protected groups presumptively violates Batson. I couldn't agree more. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your comments.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
If you say you care about the community, you have to also care about the climate. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
When Quick was going all around the country, and it seemed like drama was following him at that time period. Hip-hop always has those moments where it's like, it's calm, and then it's like peak, and it seems like it's just outbursts, violent, da-da-da-da-da-da. But when you think about it, that's been going on since the very beginning. I mean, Run DMC, can you imagine? Run DMC were considered thugs in their day. DMC was going to St. John's University when they dropped. They weren't street dudes, but they were literally considered thugs. There was concern about their concerts, the added security. A lot of venues would not ensure concerts that featured rap acts. And this started because of the Run DMC Raising Hell tour. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest outbreaks of drama that happened was here in the Los Angeles, LA County area at excuse me, at the Long Beach, was it just Sports Arena or Long Beach Arena? Whatever the Long Beach Convention Center, I can't remember what the name of the venue was, but a big fight erupted, I think before the concert even got started. Like, they talked about this recently in their documentary that was on Peacock, that they didn't know that the homies show up when you in LA. The homies gonna show up. Like, what's up? And the homies showed up and they were not ready for it. And it, kicked things off. And that sort of thought process about hip hop followed it for years and years and years. It's just been, think about it. What rap artist, the closest we saw, I guess, would be when Jay went on tour with his wife. What rap artist does stadium tours?
Kanye.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Fair.
Because that's his focus, is stadium music.
That's true. Okay, fair. But, I mean, outside
nobody
of that,
else.
Nobody else. Do you know what I'm saying? Not Jay, not Snoop, not Drake.
I'm going to throw Jay in there. Even though I know it's a collaborative effort, with his wife.
I mean, it can't, like, I was at the Rose Bowl on the Run tour,
Me too.
masked up.
It was nothing but beyond. Hold on. You said masked up. Which
I
one you
wanted
went
a little
to?
mask. I brought my mask. Like, remember she was in the things with the mask on?
This is pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on.
No, not that mask.
I was there.
Yeah.
It was like 90% Beyonce fans. And the concert was like
90%
Beyonce with a little bit of Jay.
Yeah. And it worked, but the reality is that, like, it is, you would think with hip hop being the number one genre, they would have more stadium tours, but that insurance is hard to get. A lot of people don't want to back that.
I was thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like back in the day, let's say 70s and the 80s, right, when you talk about these quote-unquote thugs, right, these quote-unquote thugs were still doing a lot of positive community work, correct?
I mean, it depends on who you're talking about, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but most, like, Run DMC, they, like, again, they just, because their image, because if you think about it, Run DMC set up the image of what most people think of, or to a certain degree, as a rapper. I once heard someone say, if someone can dress up for you as Halloween, you're a superstar. And we know right? Here's the thing. This is why. The difference between a star and a superstar, right? Like, if I just put on a blonde wig, I'm not Beyonce, right? But if I put on a blonde wig and a onesie, most people are like, are you Beyonce? Do you know what I mean? Like, in that manner. So when you think about Run DMC with the hats flipped up, DMC with the gazelles, the gold chains, the Adidas stripes, if you go on Amazon around Halloween time and you put in rapper Halloween costume, it's going to be a hat, some black gazelles, and a fake gold chain that is ripped directly from the look of Run DMC. And so I say that to say that sometimes we forget that hip hop, like, those artists are really, really big stars, but they've been in some ways pushed into certain categories where it's hard for them to get out of. I mean, Travis Scott, he's someone that probably has done stadium shows, right? Before all of the stuff happened with the tour and the Stampede, Astro World, yeah. Were they stadium size?
That I'm not too familiar. I thought it was kind of like a Coachella situation.
Okay, festival thing. That makes sense. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that we don't have, like, with rap being the number one genre in touring, nowhere close.
Does Rolling Loud count, even though it's multiple artists? No? Okay.
I want to know, like, the artists. Like, I'm sure, I wonder what the numbers are. And he was doing arenas, though, for somebody like Post Malone. I mean, I know, you know, he's kind of leaving hip-hop or whatever, but for a minute, he was everybody's guy. Like, they were posties, and everybody wanted the little beard, and not everybody, but you guys get what I'm saying. Not us, but he was out there doing what he needs to do. So, I don't know. I just think it's so interesting, the twists and turns we take and how it impacts our growth, our business. The point in me bringing up Run DMC and what happened in the 80s is that as artists, they're still dealing with that 20, 30 years later, you know, from something that effectively could have happened to some degree at any concert. You know, it wasn't something that the artist did, and they'll say this is the element that you bring in, and that stigma stays for years and years and years and years, right? So bringing that back to the Cam Newton thing and others like that, you don't want to feel not be aware, but you don't want to feel concerned with your safety when you're going to give back and you're going to see kids. It just is hard.
It's not realistic, though, unfortunately. It's not. You a big-time celebrity.
So he should have had more security.
Yeah. And that goes for anybody. You brought up Nipsey Hussle. Yeah, he should have had some security.
And then people are coming like, oh, you can't come and you...
Damned if you do, damned if
exactly.
You don't, unfortunately.
Forensic accountant says Jay was an actual thug. Talking about Jam Master Jay in Run DMC. Run and D will tell you that. And they said he was a sociable guy in the docuseries. They didn't say they said he was sociable. He knew a lot of people.
They weren't trying to, you know, incriminate him.
God bless the dead, you know. So there's that. Kendi says, black men get brainwashed into believing that the only way to support the black community is to risk your life, profession, or finances. So I feel like I understand what you're saying, and maybe explain a little further. I'm going to talk this out with you, Kendi. You could call in 800-920-1580, but I'm going to talk this out with you. Do you mean that black men feel that in order to believe they are supporting the black community, it goes to the street thing, so to speak, where you have to either give your money up, right? Saying support the hood, bring some people up, which there's nothing wrong with that. You should, right? Or to prove that you still care about the community, to be in the community, risking your life, a la what we were talking about with Nipsey, excuse me, and others. Is that kind of what you're, you know, I kind of think I understand what you're saying, but if I'm interpreting this correctly, you know, it is the risk of being physically there and wanting to touch the people, and to the point that you made earlier, Andy, about how someone that is in your face has a bigger impact than perhaps someone that you don't have any FaceTime with. Spending 5 or 10 minutes with those kids and just saying, hey, you look good out there, or, you know, work on your da-da-da-da, whatever, could, like, something that could last a lifetime and inspire them forever from that one positive interaction, right? And they get to see the person and see this person came from where I'm from. They're not too good to come back. They still care, and it's real. Other than, hey, I'm going to set up, we're going to buy your uniforms for the 7-on-7. We're going to send a check and we're going to get your uniforms, which is helpful. But, you know, it's not that mentorship that sometimes we need, that connection point that we want to still talk about. So, you know, we'll have to see how it all plays out. When we come forward, we'll have more trending topics and headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So we've been talking Cam Newton and the drama. What it means to give back as a celeb in 2024. Like, are we going to have to start pulling back physically from being boots on the ground to just other ways because it's sort of crazy out here? We'll tap back into that, Andy.
I mean, it is election year, and I think celebrities should probably take heed to what a lot of politicians do when they travel, across the country and, they campaign in, random cities and states. They're securityed up. You know what I'm saying? And, I feel like, to what Kendi had to say, I interpret that as if, like, we have this thing about being a real dude, right? A real N-word, right? Mm-hmm. So, we're not real if we're not in the community touching, kissing babies, shaking hands with no security.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, correct. The fact that I can stand amongst the people, then, people revere you more in that situation. But, as far as just being safe, I'd rather be able to go back home, right? And I just think they should have more security, and I think the community should not diss the individual because they came in with security. And if it's the case where it's like, I can't just come up to you and like shake your hand, but like, let's say it's one of those situations where, I'll sign people's autographs or whatnot, but there's still like a security line in front of me. Mm-hmm. I mean, that'll be good. And I think we should just accept that as a community.
I think so too. It reminds me too of like back in the 90s when hip hop started elevating. Think about, I can't remember. I think it was was it Eazy-E or Ice Cube? One of them rapped this lyric. Yelling Compton, but you moved to Riverside.
Ice Cube.
It was Ice Cube, right?
No Vaseline.
No Vaseline. However, we know that not too long after that, Cube, he used to live over here in Baldwin Hills. He got up out this piece too. Why? Because people tried to run up to the spot. Do you know what I'm saying? And we've heard that a few times over. Not that Pop Smoke was from LA, but they got his address because he showed too much on an Instagram story. And they came to his spot, right? And so again, different circumstances from what we were talking about with Cam, but all sort of related because they all have to do with, you know, you wanting to stay connected to the hood, but like Draymond Green said to Paul P., they don't love you like that. They might, but not everyone does, and they don't always mean good things for you. Listen, speaking of, KBLA Talk 1580 has released groundbreaking results from a survey about environmental issues and the impact of pollution and climate change on our community. The poll provides unique insights into the Black voter sentiment and preference on key environmental and social justice issues. The results highlight that there is a direct connection between environmental justice, social justice, and civil rights. Equally important, respondents overwhelmingly believe that pollution, climate change, and other forms of environmental harm impact Black, Latino, and low-income communities more than white, Asian, wealthy, and coastal communities. To learn more about this new survey and our historic year-long climate justice campaign, head over to the website KBLA 1580. You know, at KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community and we care about the climate. So, back to our trending topics. Listen, I mentioned that Lakers Christian Woods, had an eventful weekend. So, Christian has a young son with Instagram model, influencer, social baddie. Her name is Yasmin Lopez. Yasmin has an older son with NFL star, I think he still plays for the Cowboys, Trevon Diggs. Not sure what the drama is with Christian and Yasmin, but let's just say things aren't going too well right now. Well, Yasmin was caught on video live in 3K, might have been 4K, hopping the fence, scaling the fence to Christian's home, and then keying up his car. And she did a number on baby boy's car, right? Well, the neighbors saw her scaling his wall and vandalizing his car, and they called the police. So Yasmin was arrested. Christian knew once this happened, he was concerned about the whereabouts of his child. So he went to the young lady's house who was watching his son on behalf of Yasmin. The young lady's name is T. She is also a part of the Zeus Network's Baddies franchise. So you understand where I'm going with all of this. And she claimed that Christian tried to threaten her and that he attacked her or was planning to attack her with a shovel, which she said he just moved out of the way. So there is a debate on social media. Christian's sister has come out and she was with him and denied that that is the way that it went down. She said he was simply going because he knew his son's mother had been arrested to get his child. Some people are saying, absolutely not. She should not have given the son to his father because that's not who left him with the friend. Then there are others like, that's that boy's daddy. He should be able to pick him up wherever he goes. But the bigger issue, I guess, well, not issue, question mark, is if we're having all of this back and forth and the police are involved, who do you lean in towards? Your friend? Or are you setting yourself up to be involved in a potential bigger situation? Now, the young lady T did take this to social media, and she attempted to record part of it. But like I said, Wood's sister is disputing the events as she recounted them. I just think it's sad when there are young kids involved, and I know that these individuals are pretty young. You know, I think Yasmin is younger than 25. I don't believe she's that. And Christian is pretty young too. And we know that emotions get the best of us. But do you see how easy it is, slippery slope, to get caught up in a situation in your own home? Listen, we'll get more into this on the other side. Plus, we're going to talk about that Wendy Williams documentary because there was a lot to discuss. All that and more on the other side. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.